Okay, this time let's look at activity 2.2.3.4, and we're going to look at configuring initial switch settings. Um, so we have our instructions up here, and we're going to start, and so we're just going to follow along here. I'm going to start with switch 1, and this time we can click on S1 and click on our, if you're on the physical, click on the CLI. And I blew this up a little bit more, hopefully to make it a little bit easier to follow along with. Okay, if you're going through this activity on your own, go ahead and pause the video whenever you need to. Highly recommend that you do go through it, get the practice. In addition to just watching and seeing what I'm doing, it's going to be very, very beneficial to you. Okay, so we're going to start by going to privileged exec mode. So we do that using the command enable, or EN for short. And then I want to look at my running config. So I'm going to show run, and this is going to show me my running config. And this is going to identify a whole bunch of stuff for me, including number of ports that I have, what my basic settings are. We're going to take a closer look at this as we move along. But here are a couple of questions we can answer. How many fast Ethernet interfaces does this switch have? Well, my last one is fast Ethernet 024, so I've got 24 of them. How many gigabit Ethernet interfaces does this switch have? 2 of them, 0102. What's my range for my Vty lines? Well, right here, let me actually just select all of this. It's 0 through 15. It breaks it up into 2 pieces for some technical details that we don't care about right now. But 0 through 15 are all Vty lines. All right, so that gives you some, well, you can work through some of these questions. I want to focus here on this. Let's get through our basic switch configuration. So I'm going to go to global config, so it's config T, and I'm going to start by setting the host name. So it's going to be host, and we're going to name it S1. So it's just host S1. And you can see over here they have you typing out the full commands. I'm shortcutting them. Either way works, doesn't really matter. So that sets my host name. Now this has you exiting out. We're going to ignore that. We're going to jump down here to securing access to the console line. So we're going to set the config line mode and the console password to let me in, which every time I look at that actually reminds me of Lomain, but let me in is what we're going with. So we're already in global config, so we're just going to go to line con 0. There's only one console line, and Cisco, everything, when you number everything in Cisco, it starts out at 0. So that's why we have Vty line 0 through 15, gives us 16 lines. We're line con 0, we only have one of them, so it's number 0. So we're going to set password to let me in. And then we're going to do a login. You'll notice right here there's no login enforced on the console line. If you don't say login, it doesn't actually use the password. Now on our Vty lines, we've got the opposite. We have login set but no password. So we're going to set that, and we're gonna veer from our script a little bit here. Let's set our Vty line password since we're here. So I'm going to do line Vty 015. I'm going to set the password to let me in. Okay, let's end out and do a show running config. And when we get down to our Vty lines and our console lines, we'll see password let me in and login set. Let's see if it works. I'm going to exit, which is going to take me all the way out, and I have to do return to get started. All right, it's prompting me for a password, so it worked just fine. Let me in. When you're typing, notice nothing shows up. That's not a big deal. It doesn't give you any echoes that say you're typing, so you just got to assume that you are. All right. So we verified that this is working. Next step, step 4 here, is to set an enabled password of C1 $C0. Hopefully I'll remember that when I go to type it in a minute. So config T, and then we're going to do enable password, and it's C1 $C0. C0? C0. Okay, or Cisco. Now, this also, like the others, if we do a show run, we're going to see that this is stored in plain text. That's actually not a good idea. We would rather have it stored encrypted, but using the password option stores it in plain text. We're going to fix that here in a minute. But let's start by verifying that it works. So I'm going to exit. Okay, my password is going to be let me in, and then en, and hey, perfect. It's asking for a password when we go to privileged exec mode. So this is going to be C1 $C0. There we go. See if I can type it correctly. All right. Now, we saw how that was when we did the show run. We saw how this is stored in an encrypted format. That's not good. By the way, we're at a more screen, so I did show run. Put me at the more. I don't want to go all the way through the rest of it, so I hit Control C and it breaks me out. So I want to set it. I want to store this in an encrypted format. So it's going to be config T. I was already in privileged exec mode. And for this one, it's enable secret, and we're going to use a password. It's a secret. All right, now when I do a show run, I'm going to see my enable password, but I'm also going to see right here this enable secret. And this one is much, much, much more secure. You can tell, I mean, this one, somebody walks by and they look over their shoulder and they see it. Here, they see garbage. So the enable secret password overrides the enable password. The iOS will not let you set them the same, by the way. You have to enable or use the enable secret if it's configured. Okay. Now, what about, see, we've looked at our show running. Now, what about these passwords down here? These I actually can't use a secret for, but the iOS does have something called a password encryption service. In fact, if we scroll back up, we're going to see right here, no service password encryption. That means the password encryption service is turned off. Let's turn that on again. So let's go to config T, and we're going to do service pass, and that's turns on the password encryption service. Now when I do a show run, service password encryption is activated, and now look at this. My enable password is secured, and my console and Vty Line passwords are secured. Now, don't get too excited about that security. It's not great. In fact, there are tools online where if you go out and find it, you can put in that value, this right here, and it will tell you what the password is. So it's still not that secure, but at least it's not plain text. It's one step up from where we were. All right, let's configure an Motd banner. So for that one, we're going to go to config T, and it's banner. Motd stands for message of the day. Now, this needs to start with and end with the same character. So I'm going to use quotation marks, and I'm going to say, this is a secure system. Authorized access only, exclamation point. And then I have to end it with a quotation mark because I started it with a quotation mark. Anything, the first character and the last character have to match, and they don't actually show up in your on your banner. Let's see what this looks like here. So I'm going to exit out, and I'm going to do a show run, and I'm going to see down here banner Motd. Notice it's replaced it with Control C's. And let's exit out and see if it works. Enter. Here's our banner. This is a secure system, authorized access only. Password is let me in. En password is it's a secret. And we are working. So we have a basic configuration. And basically all we've done is set the host name, set some passwords, set a banner. But hey, it's a start. Okay, let's do switch 2. This one we're going to do more all in one shot. And watch your requirements over here. We actually have slightly different requirements on this one than we did on switch 1. So let's go for it. En config T. Set the new device name S2. Well, that's host name S2. That's easy enough. protect the access console using the let me in password. So we're going to do line con 0 password let me in. Configure the enable password and an enable secret password, which is bad practice, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway just so we get the practice with it. So I'm going to exit out, enable password C1 $C0, and then enable secret. It's a secret. Okay, so that does letter C. Configure a message for those who log in via, and my gosh, they give me a long one. So it's banner, Motd, and we're going to use, and remember you don't have to use a quotation mark. In fact, if you're using quotation marks in your banner, then that's not, it won't work. You'll have to find another character, but here we're not using it, so it works. So authorized access only. Unauthorized access is prohibited and will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And closing quotation marks to close off our message. Encrypt all plain text passwords. So that is service password encryption. And then let's verify it. So we're going to exit out and we're going to do a show run. So here are our passwords: service password encryption, host name, banner, Motd, line con 0. It didn't ask us for Vty passwords. Let's go ahead and do a copy run start to save our config, which, by the way, I don't think we did on S1. So let's see if we can fix that here. No, I didn't want to close that. Come here. Whoops, not there. There we go. Copy, run, start. Okay, so we have saved everything. Now I do want to show you something down here. We've been through everything that it said, I think, but as we look at this, it says completion is only 68 out of 72. So something you can do in your packet tracer activities is you can check results to see if you missed anything. And here's my assessment items, and it says I forgot to set the login on the console line. Well, that sounds important. Let's come back in to do that. So we're going to go S2, config T line con 0 login, copy, run, start. Okay, we are now complete. So we have finished our packet tracer activity on configuring initial switch settings.